has pointed this out. But we've got yet another former NBA player, one that played in the league a really long time, with one of the most unique names. I can vividly, unfortunately, I'm old enough to remember watching Olden Polynice play. And, of course, him coming up with the Seattle Supersonics. And then, most notably, I remember him with the Kings. But he has come out and he has said what so many of us has been banging the table about for the last 20 months now. And that's the WNBA needs to do a better job of protecting their money. And what is their money? Caitlin Clark.
Polynice's point is simple. Caitlin is the money. She is the reason attendance skyrockets when the Fever play. She is why WNBA highlights trend on social media and why major networks like ESPN are dedicating airtime to the league. Without her, these games would have significantly fewer viewers. But instead of protecting her, the league has been accused of seeming to encourage the chaos. In her rookie season, she was scheduled to play against the toughest defenses in back-to-back games, a difficult gauntlet for any player.
We know we've said back for the last 20 months, we watched Caitlin Clark get the ever-loving crap beat out of her on the court. Mostly last year, but, let's be honest. The season started this year, and it seemed like every other game, there was some kind of an incident this year. And, of course, it culminated with all the drama with Angel Reese and the Indiana Fever fans being under investigation for being a bunch of racists. You can't make this stuff up. It actually happened. The investigation, not the racist part.
Despite that rough start, she still delivered an impressive performance, scoring 20 points in her debut, even with 10 turnovers. She was then immediately thrown against the Liberty, a team that went on to win the championship. While early losses piled up and critics were quick to pounce, the Fever eventually found their footing, going 19-11 during a long stretch. That's not luck. It's Caitlin changing the energy of an entire franchise.
So here we go. Caitlin Clark's Fever managed to make the playoffs without her, but they went down in the first game to the Atlanta Dream. Good Lord. The Atlanta Dream, 80-68. Now they're just one game away from the end of their season, unless they can find a way to win 2 straight without their franchise player. Olden Polynice appeared on the most recent episode of Byron Scott's Fast Break. My God, everybody's got a podcast. In a discussion that mostly centered on WNBA players demanding more pay, he took a slight detour to say the WNBA needs to recognize what they have with Caitlin Clark.
Still, Polynice's core argument stands. It's as if the WNBA doesn't realize what they have. He said, "You don't even take care of your own. You had the golden egg and you still do, but yet you clown." This statement, according to critics, sums up the league's entire attitude. There's a perception that the league is resentful of the fact that Caitlin is its new face rather than embracing it. Instead of building her up, they allow players to be overly physical with her and then lecture fans about respect.
And that it needs to do a better job of protecting her. Quote, "You don't even take care of your own," Polynice said. "You had the golden egg, and you still do, but yet you clown. Caitlin Clark is your golden egg." Polynice pointed out in her rookie season, the schedule makers sent Clark to face the 2 toughest defenses in the league to begin her career, not exactly giving her a chance to start her rookie season on a high note.
Here's the perceived irony. The WNBA consistently advocates for higher pay and equal respect to the NBA. Yet when a player comes along who can make that dream a reality, many seem to try to tear her down. Caitlin is a key reason why some players have seen a significant rise in jersey sales, endorsements, and TV time. Yet instead of acknowledging that, she is often treated like a rival. Polynice's comments highlighted this very hypocrisy.
They had that brutal start last year. Remember, because the WNBA wanted to get her on TV as much as they could right out of the gate, it led to a 1-9 start. They had like 10 games in, 18 days or so. It was a pretty rough stretch.
The Michael Jordan comparison is particularly poignant because it gets to the heart of the matter. Jordan went from being roughed up nightly to being the most protected player in the game, not out of personal favoritism, but because protecting him meant protecting the business. The Bulls sold out arenas nationwide, and the NBA's global popularity exploded. That is the model. Protect your star, grow your revenue, and everyone wins. Now, consider the WNBA. Caitlin Clark enters the league, sells out arenas across the country, brings TV ratings to record highs, and attracts millions of new fans. The league's response? A perceived passivity toward the cheap shots and a shrug when fans express anger. Let's not forget when Fever fans were investigated for racism for booing Angel Reese, creating a narrative out of thin air instead of acknowledging that fans were upset about the constant physical targeting of their favorite player. And speaking of Angel Reese, many observers believe a lot of this hostility stems from jealousy within the league itself. Paula Nice hinted at it. The players know Caitlin's popularity is on another level. They know her jersey outsells theirs, and that sponsors are lining up for her. Instead of realizing that her success could lift all boats, they seem to prefer to drag her down. You cannot complain about low pay while ignoring the one player who is bringing in the money. Fans see through this. They saw it last season when Caitlin was out and attendance plummeted. In a Mystics game in Baltimore, over 3,000 tickets were sold, but when word spread that Caitlin wasn't playing, fans simply stayed home. The stadium was full of empty seats. That is proof of her influence. Yet, the league has been criticized for spinning this as if the fans are fickle. No, they are there for Caitlin, period. Paula Nice's criticism didn't stop at the league. He also pointed out that other players are complicit. They want bigger paychecks, but are unwilling to accept the reason those checks might get bigger. It's perceived as jealousy dressed up as competitiveness. Meanwhile, retired NBA players are making more sense about women's basketball than the women actually playing it. This is a powerful point. The WNBA, according to critics, is guided by pride. They don't want to admit their entire marketing machine hinges on one player. But the truth is clear: when Caitlin doesn't play, attendance dips, TV ratings dip, and nobody is talking about the league. If they don't protect her, they are essentially undermining their own foundation. These points are not pulled from thin air. Dick Vitale, a broadcasting legend, has seen how athletes act when they're motivated by greatness versus when they're bitter. His comments were not just about defending Caitlin Clark for headlines, they were about calling out a toxic culture brewing within the WNBA. The kind where players spend more time downplaying her impact than focusing on their own game. When Vitale used the word jealousy, many felt he hit the nail on the head. Let's be clear. You don't drop Caitlin Clark all the way down to 9th among guards unless you are deliberately trying to send a message. And that message wasn't, she's not good enough. The real message was, we don't like that she is changing the league faster than we ever could. That kind of behavior makes fans roll their eyes and say, yep, that's the WNBA for you. What makes it even more striking is how obvious it all looks. Clark is breaking records, boosting ratings, and selling out arenas, and yet somehow 8 other guards are considered more deserving. The fans are not naive. They see through the act. When players who have barely been mentioned in national conversations are suddenly ranked ahead of Caitlin, it screams insecurity. Vitale simply said out loud what millions were already thinking. After his comments, there was a noticeable silence from certain WNBA players. Nobody wanted to respond because doing so would only prove his point. Trying to tweet, "It's not jealousy, we just think she hasn't earned it yet," would sound like a confession. Instead, they stayed quiet, hoping the news cycle would move on. But fans didn't move on. They embraced Vitale's comments, sharing them widely as confirmation of their feelings. This whole incident didn't just expose the all-star voting process. It exposed the deeper rift between Caitlin Clark and the so-called establishment players. How many times have we heard players openly complain about the attention Clark gets? It's too much coverage. It's unfair to other players. This is a familiar refrain, but none of that changes the reality. Clark is the biggest draw the league has ever had, and no amount of shade will undo that. Vitale's comments also lit a fire under Clark's passionate fanbase, giving them validation for what they have been shouting since day one. The WNBA players who thought they could humble Clark by burying her in the rankings ended up making her even more popular. It's as if They don't understand how sports culture works. The moment you try to diminish someone who is clearly making waves, you only add fuel to the fire. And from the outside, this drama makes the league look like a high school. Instead of celebrating its newfound visibility, some players are perceived as gatekeeping and handing out petty punishments. Vital saw this, which is why he had no problem putting them on blast. The irony is that if players had just voted fairly, no one would have cared. But by clearly snubbing Clark, they exposed their own insecurity and gave Vitali the perfect opening. Now, the narrative is no longer about who made the All-Star team. It's about whether the WNBA has a jealousy problem. What makes this even worse for the players is that Clark isn't going anywhere. This isn't a one-hit wonder who will disappear after a flashy rookie year. She's in her second season, putting up huge numbers, and she's only getting better. Every time she steps on the court, she makes history. Every time she sinks a deep three or threads a difficult pass, she pulls in new fans, and those fans are not going to forget the way the league has handled her. If anything, Vitali's comments gave people permission to say out loud what they've been whispering for months. The league has a jealousy problem. Instead of embracing its biggest star, it seems to be trying to dim her light instead of working together to grow the game. Too many players are stuck in a crab-in-a-bucket mindset, pulling each other down instead of lifting each other up. It's not a good look, and the more they deny it, the more obvious it becomes. No one is saying Caitlin Clark is perfect. She's young, still learning, and makes mistakes like any player. But to act like she's not already one of the top guards in the league is where the jealousy shines through. You don't have to be her #1 fan to admit the obvious. She belongs at the top. And when players refuse to give her that credit, it doesn't make her look bad. It makes them look bitter. In the end, Vitali's impassioned rant wasn't just about one all-star vote. It was about calling out a toxic attitude that has been holding the WNBA back for years. Fans want to see competition, not politics. They want to watch players battle it out on the court, not engage in sabotage behind the scenes. Until the league figures that out, moments like this will keep happening. So yes, Caitlin Clark may have been ranked 9th by her peers, but in the eyes of the fans, the broadcasters, and the people who actually move the needle in sports, she is already #1. The WNBA players can keep playing their jealousy games, but all they are doing is proving Dick Vitali right, and that is a battle they cannot win. A new debate has emerged around Caitlin Clark and the WNBA, with a growing chorus of voices, including retired NBA legends, calling on the league to protect its biggest star. The comparison being made is to the sport's greatest player, Michael Jordan. Another ex-NBA player who understands the business side of basketball has publicly criticized the league for its apparent refusal to protect its most valuable asset. The comparison is a loaded one, straight to Michael Jordan. Olden Polynice, a name that evokes the gritty, physical NBA of the 1990s, has echoed what many fans have been saying for months: protect Caitlin Clark or risk the league's growth. He was unapologetic in his assessment, calling her the WNBA's golden egg and condemning the league's actions as a form of clown behavior for ignoring the obvious. It's ironic that it takes former NBA players, guys who have no personal stake in the WNBA, to point out what seems so clear. Polynice on Byron Scott's podcast stated directly that the WNBA should emulate how the NBA eventually treated Michael Jordan. For those who know basketball history, this comparison is deeply significant. Jordan didn't just waltz into the league and dominate, he was brutalized by the bad boy Detroit Pistons. The Jordan rules meant every time he drove to the hoop, he was met with physical force. Their mission was to rough him up and break his spirit, and for a time, it worked. But the NBA, unlike what critics say the WNBA is doing now, recognized a critical truth. They weren't just protecting a player, they were protecting their product. Michael Jordan was printing money for the league, ratings, ticket sales, and merchandise all exploded with him as the face of the NBA. The league eventually adjusted officiating, and the Bulls built a tougher team around him, allowing their biggest cash cow to thrive and grow the sport to new heights. Now look at Caitlin Clark. She's only in her second season, yet the physical play against her has not stopped. Last season, she was body-checked and hacked, with referees often swallowing their whistles. This season, the pattern has continued. It often feels as if every game becomes a contest to see who can hit Caitlin the hardest without being ejected. That's not basketball. It's a form of hostility